Alright guys, welcome back to the Taj Mahal, Friday, December the 29th, just after 1 p.m. And we are not leaving the garage today until this fender is bolted on 100%. So hopefully that won't take too long. Anyway, we'll mark out the location for that front fender mount that we screwed up yesterday. So as mentioned, we're going to have to fill this hole and relocate it. So we'll make a note of where the hole is supposed to be, and then we'll take the fender off for the 56th time and hopefully drill that hole in the right location, get it mounted up, and see if we can get all the bolt holes aligned as well. So that's the task for today. So hopefully it won't be too difficult, and hopefully it won't turn into some sort of nightmare. Alright guys, 2:45, and just a quick update for you. Now we have every single bolt in the fender attached, so I'm happy to report that the fender is finally fixed at all its locating points after I don't know how many weeks it's been since I've been working on this fender, including all of the flanges, etc. It's been a long process just to get this one fender fitted. So looks pretty good here in the front, fits pretty darn good. Like I said, for a fender that's never been on the car, and for a fender that's had a lot of work. I even managed to get that gap looking better in the closing piece, so I think I can live with that. And like I said, the grill's probably gonna pretty much obscure that area anyway. So we'll also put a little bit of seam sealer in there when we actually put this car back together. The nose bolted in, all 3 fasteners are in on the inside. All of the fasteners on the inside are done as well. Now, I have one word. Remember I put a captive nut or a cage nut on the inside of this lower mounting area? Not required, so I cut it off. It's actually easier not to have one there. It's very easy just to reach up and put a nut on there. So I was looking at some photos of a TR4 this morning and noticed that they actually don't have a captive nut on the inside. They're only the one above it. So we just ground that off. It makes it so much easier to attach that fender. I actually checked on this side as well, and it's not showing a captive nut for the lower one. It's only showing captive nut for the higher one, so we're going to go with that. It did make it easier to attach that fender, that's for sure. Anyway, there's the update. So I think we're going to move on to something else finally. Maybe we'll move on to the passenger side. I haven't seen this side of the car in ages. Anyway, we'll think about it. We'll come back. So according to the driver's side fender that we just completed, we need 8 fastening points along the top fender flange. And I'm just laughing because I've just counted the mounting points on this side. I started this as a drain hole. So here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Not going to count these 2 because these are for a little rubber buffer. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 mounting points for this fender on this side. So I don't think that's right. So we'll have to fix that. Anyway, where to start on this side? Alright guys, we're about to start on the passenger side front fender fitment. And it's at this point I need to decide what I'm going to do as far as what fender I'm going to use. I threatened to use the good California front fender that I have over there, which is off of a TR4, versus the matching pair or matching set to the driver's side fender that I have over here for the passenger side. But this fender is in pretty poor condition. It's a little rusty, as you can see on the bottom, which is not too much of an issue. Obviously you can buy a repair panel for that if you watched my video on the driver's side. But this is an issue here. You can see how bad the rear flange is on this fender and how wavy this is. And it's got a huge dent. I don't know if you can see it from this side or not, but it's got a huge dent on the underside of this fender that's pushed in behind here. So I'm not sure what's happened, whether something hit it hard on the other side to do all this damage. So if I was to use this fender, I'd have to take this whole panel out, straighten it, and then re-crimp the or rebend the edge of this fender. The front of the fender doesn't look very good either. It's quite rusty and wrinkly. So this would need a lot of repair up here as well. So as far as the rest of the fender, it's not too bad. The flange doesn't look too bad. It's obviously quite rusty, but I think it's usable. So really it's just those two areas that would need to be fixed on this fender. So I'm trying to decide, oh, and obviously I got some broken bolts and stuff in here as well, and this is pretty bent up, this flange. So I've got to decide whether I want to use this fender or use the California fender. And right now I'm leaning to working with the California fender, because this one's just, it needs a lot of work, and it's work that I could do, but it would definitely slow me down at this point in my restoration. So I might just bite the bullet and use the good fender. Anyway, let me think about it. And just before I go any further, I thought I'd give you a quick look at that dent on the other side, on the outside of the fender. So it's quite rusty and pretty deep dent there that would have to come out. So thought I'd give you a quick look at that before we move on to our decision-making process. I think I'm going to do to help me make this decision is to see how hard it'll actually be to release this flange piece and straighten the edge of the fender. So we're going to clean this up a little bit. We're not going to spend a ton of time on this. If it doesn't look like this is going to work, we'll just go on to plan B, which is the other fender. But I thought I would give this a shot anyway and try to release this piece from the edge of the fender by uncrimping that edge. So we'll see how that goes. You can see it's already uncrimped in certain areas anyway. It's actually over the top. It's not under the flange, so that piece should be a little bit easier to deal with because it's not actually folded under. Anyway, we'll come back after we play around with that a little bit. All right, making pretty good progress on this seam. We've got it basically broken from here down to about here. So I think I'm running into a bit of spot welds now, so we're going to get the little Dremel out with the grinding disc on. I've got to get this ground down a little bit more, so it's obviously capturing this point right here. So anyway, we'll break the Dremel out, drill a little grinding down here, and see how we do. Alright guys, success. That didn't take too long. So there's that piece detached, and you can see the loveliness underneath of it. The flange actually doesn't look too bad. I'm not sure whether it's going to be usable or not, but we're going to try to bend that up a little bit. And here's a look at the obviously the top side of that. And like I said, it's dented up pretty badly, but we should be able to possibly fix this. It's got quite a bit of heavy surface rust on the bottom, but anyway, it's not too bad a shape considering it's 50 years old. Anyway, we'll see what we can do with this. Alright, I've moved around to the nose of the fender, and I've just ground out a ton of Bondo out of here. You might be able to see all the Bondo dust in the garage. Anyway, it's got a few tack welds here. It looks like these have been brazed in, so I need to grind off the brazing in order to release this little closing piece. So we'll see if we can get this detached. It's going to be another area we need to fix, so we'll see if we can get this detached and see what it looks like. Alright guys, the front closing piece is off the fender and it's definitely seen better days. So I just thought I'd give you a quick look at that. Not sure what we're going to do with this, but anyway, just thought I'd give you a quick shot of it. So let's go over to the car and just hold the fender up and see if the fender will fit without the closing piece and that flange at the rear. Alright guys, we've got that steel fender fitted to the passenger side, and shockingly, it actually doesn't fit too bad. Let me just grab a light here. Sorry for the camera work. So down the front, not bad. You can see I'm going to have some work here in this corner. And it looks like there's been a big patch put in here at some point in time. And you can see the Bondo flaking away. But as far as the fender fitment, it's not bad considering it's just a initial fit. I've only got one bolt bolted up down the bottom, so not bad. So as far as the flange is concerned, flange actually looks not bad on this side. I know that light's in the way. Let me turn that off and see if that's any better for you. Hang on for a sec. So yeah, the flange is not bad. It's actually a little bit proud here, but for the most part it's pretty flush the whole way along. Obviously I have the same issue here as I did over here, and this is not finished properly. Obviously there's a pickup point for a fastener here that wasn't captured, I guess, on the fiberglass fenders that were on this car, so this needs to be extended out. and finished like that area over there. But other than that, it looks pretty good there. And even, I know I don't have that inside piece, but the door gaps are actually pretty good. I didn't pound that dent out a little bit. It's actually a little bit more than proud of the fender now. So, but as a first initial fit, it actually looks pretty darn good. The door needs to come up a little bit to meet with the body line, and this fender top needs to go down a little bit. But it will actually, if I sort of put my lights down, it'll actually push down. And there's a fastener right there, so it'll actually push down and stay there. As far as the gap on the bottom of the door, since that door has to come up to meet that body line, is actually the door gap at the front is lower than the rear, so technically it has to go up anyway. So that might work out okay. So at this point, actually even the rocker fitment is not too bad. I've seen worse. Obviously needs a repair panel down the bottom, but on first fit up, it actually fits pretty darn good considering how bad a shape it's in and how bad a shape the car is in. So that's promising at least. I think what I'll do next is I'm going to see how that California TR4 fender fits, just for comparison's sake, and see if it fits any better than this, and see if it needs less work. Obviously it's going to need less work than this, but let's see how it fits out of the box on this side, and that may determine what fender I go with as well. So anyway, at least this old TR250 fender is promising. If I absolutely had to work with this fender, I probably could, so that's not necessarily a bad thing. I was just actually comparing on the TR4 fender that damaged flange piece to see what it should look like, and I don't know if you can see this very well. So there's a good piece, very, very flat, and you can see quite the buckle in this piece here. So I would have to make this piece look like that piece. Guess I could probably try to hammer and dolly that out and see what it'd come up with. Anyway, that's just an option. Just thought I'd show you that. So it's good again to have this fender for reference, because this is what that needs, or that is what this needs to look like. Hey, good evening guys, Tush coming at you. It's Sunday, December the 31st, last day of 2017. We're just after 7 p.m. and we thought we'd come out and do a few hours in the garage. Definitely a cold one out here tonight. It's about minus 20 right now. I think it's going down to about minus 26 within the next couple hours. I think they're saying somewhere between minus 31 and minus 35 with the wind chill. So they've actually canceled most of the New Year's Eve outdoor celebrations around this part of the country. Here, Ottawa, Montreal, other locations are all under the same sort of weather conditions. So not too many people celebrating outdoors this evening, although I'm sure there'll be a few. Anyway, back on the 68 TR250 tonight, after spending a good day yesterday playing around with Ellen's GT6. We'll put a link to that video up in the on the corner, so you might want to check that out if you haven't already. Anyway, I think the last thing we were doing on this car a couple days ago is we were playing around with a Fender Fitment, and we dug up one of the original steel fenders, the matching pair to the driver's side, which is in pretty poor condition. I know I pulled the flange off the inside of the fender at the front and at the rear of the fender, and we managed to get this fender fitting up to the car, not too bad. We did pound out that little dent that was on the side of it a little bit, so I can actually get this fender to fit pretty good without worrying about the flange at the front or the rear. And those are the two things that really make it difficult to fit this fender properly, is the location of those flanges or the condition of those flanges. So I think what we're going to do, and I threatened to do this I think the last video, I think we're going to pull this fender off and we're going to go back to our good California TR4 fender and see how well that fits. And that will make the determination as to what fender we're going with. If the TR4 fender fits relatively well, we may just decide to go with that and bite the bullet and go ahead and use this. The reason I was thinking of not using it is if you've been following along in my videos, I'm going to be doing a modification on these fenders anyway. Let me just go back around to the other side. If you recall, I've said that I want to do TR4 rally inspired vents in the fender. So there's the cutout on the inner fender, and that cutout will be extended to the outer fender. So I'll have to obviously cut the original steel fenders. And I was wanting to do that on a not so good fender. If I'm going to be modifying, I was preferring to keep the good fenders. These fenders are probably worth about, in this condition, they're probably worth about 700 bucks. So I definitely, you know, if I can use this fender somewhere else, I'd rather use this and try to work with the original fender if it can be fixed. But if it's going to take too much work to do that, or if it's going to not fit as good as something else, then I'll just bite the bullet and go with the better fender. It'll save me a lot of work, that's for sure. Anyway, so we'll do that. We're going to swap that fender out and we'll have a look. Enough rambling, we'll get to work. Alright guys, we've been playing with the fender for about an hour, and I have to say that I think the TR4 fender is the winner. The gap is pretty good top to bottom. The door needs to go up a little bit, which we knew about because it actually needed to go up on the other fender as well, so it needs to go up just a tiny little bit, which is good because, as I mentioned, the gap at the bottom of the door is much lower than the rear of the door, so it technically could go up some anyway. The rocker panel fit is not too bad. It does need a little bit of work, but I think we can live with that. I've got everything bolted up at the nose of the car. Before I go there though, the flange looks pretty good all the way across, which is nice to see. So I do need to build it up here at the front as per this side. So it should look something like that. And I need to obviously pick up this fastener location in the front. But that looks not too bad. So we'll fix up that flange. It needs a bit of work here on the front. And as I mentioned, you can see here, I think that it's got some Bondo in here, bad repair, so that'll have to be looked at. But it's got a little bit of a wider gap here, but it doesn't fit too bad considering it's straight out of the box fitment. It does have a bit of a gap, which I think I can fix. Just with the flanges on the inside of the fender, they can be pounded out to cover some of that gap. So all in all, I think it looks pretty good considering it's a first fit. So I think we're going to end up going with this TR4 fender and make it into a TR250 fender. So it is in very good shape, so it'll take me a lot less work and I'll have a lot less headaches if I just go ahead and use this fender. So I think we're just going to go ahead and bite the bullet and use this fender. Alright guys, I think the first job we're going to do now that we've got the fender decided upon, we're going to start getting some cardboard here, and we're going to start making a template to make this flange extension here on the front. So we're going to move it probably up to somewhere around back here. So we want to extend this flange, this inner flange, all the way to the front and make it meet up nicely with the nose of this fender. So and obviously we've got a fastener pickup location here that we're going to need a hole for. So anything, well, I figure we'll do this template while the fender is still bolted to the car solidly, and at least get that out of the way. We'll also make note of the fastener locations. As I mentioned, I think there's like 15 fastener locations on this car, on this inner flange. So we're going to mark out what's required, and we are going to fill the rest of the fastener locations and make that flange look a little bit better. Might do a few repairs up along the middle there where it dips down. We'll add a little piece of metal in there, but we'll get there when we get there. So we'll work on this piece first. Alright guys, on second thought, I'm not going to make a template for here. This fender flange is pretty wavy, so we're going to cut this fender flange back here, and we're going to drop it down. We're going to make a new flange the entire length and extend it out past the fender. Then we'll trim it to match. So a rethink on that template situation. We'll just go ahead and cut that flange and repair it like we did on the other side. Alright guys, fender is back off, and as you can see, I've marked the 8 locations for the original fender mount. So the rest of the holes will be welded closed, so at least we know where the original holes need to be, so that's good. I don't have to actually drill new holes on this side, just have to close up some holes. So we'll do that shortly. We're going to start working on cutting out this flange piece. And maybe you can get a better idea of how wavy this piece is and why I want to cut out it and re-weld it in. It's pretty damaged up the front here as well, so I figured I'll just cut it out and re-weld a new piece in there. Alright, we're just going to mark it out where we want to cut it. Alright, we're going to make that cut. We got some good metal cutting music on, so here we go. Do a little grinding. Alright, let's mark and cut this piece out. Alright guys, we've made that patch successfully, or at least we think we did. Anyway, there it is. So we're going to go ahead and tack it in. We've got everything ground down. So let's give this a shot. Again, we're using a 16 gauge for this repair. It's been screwed around with before. Should be 2 layers of metal, but it's only 1 here, so doing the best we can. Alright, close your eyes. Okay. sorry guys, I'm not sure if you got me welding this patch in or not. I just realized that the memory card was full, so I've just deleted some stuff off the card. For you to be able to see this for the end of the night update, so it's just tacked in there. We'll finish off welding this tomorrow. I just thought I'd give you a quick shot of that. Obviously we're going to grind or cut that flange down to be flush with the other flange there at the top. But I think it looks pretty good. I think one last thing before I'm going to do before I go in is just hold the fender up and see how we're doing as far as the shape is concerned. I think we're going to be okay, but I think I'll just check it before we go in just to have peace of mind for tomorrow. Alright, one last look at that front fender, and didn't do the greatest of jobs here at the front. You can see that I've left this flange a little short, so we'll tack a little piece on here tomorrow, but other than that it looks pretty darn good. So we've got lots of excess to grind down, which is good, which is what I wanted. So that's looking good, except for just this little nose piece. But anyway, like I said, that'll be a pretty simple fix tomorrow. So we'll get out here. I don't think it's going to be bright and early. We're going to probably go in and maybe start a fire in the old fireplace tonight and just sit and relax for a little bit. It's 10 o'clock, so we've done more than a power hour, so I think we deserve to sit on the couch and watch some TV and veg a little bit. Alright guys, we've got the fire blazing away here, just coming up to 11 p.m. and we're just kicking back and relaxing and soaking up the heat. So as this is my last video of 2017, I wanted to wish you a very happy new year. And I also wanted to thank you for supporting my channel and watching, commenting, and subscribing. I've always received very nice comments and very positive feedback and lots of inspiration from your comments, so thank you for that. So in 2018 I'm looking forward to continuing work on my Triumph projects and my Alpha project, and I'm hopefully going to be able to get that TR250 on the road next year. That's the plan anyway. There are some organizations that are considering next year the 50th anniversary of the TR250, so it would be great if I could get out to some of those celebrations. I'm also looking forward to seeing Ellen's car on the road next year as well. Hopefully I'll have that done by the summertime and you can see him zipping around. And let's not forget old Les, working on his MK3 Capri. I haven't had an update from Les in a little while, but he has been working on it slowly. It is cold out in the garage. You can imagine it's cold out in Les's garage as well. So anyway, we hope to see more progress from Les in 2018 as well. And I'm hoping to see some of my, obviously, subscribers obviously have channels as well. They're working on their own projects. So I'm hoping to see some of their projects come to fruition and make it back on the road in 2018 as well. So anyway, Happy New Year. We'll see you in 2018. Right, Micah? Right.